Hi, so this is me. And today I want to talk about how I became a minimalist without even noticing. Subscribe to my channel to receive weekly videos with stories, facts, and advice on transformational habits that will help you create lasting change in your life. So you might wonder how this can even happen. How do you become a minimalist without even noticing? I think what happened in my case is I was a pretty normal teenager when it comes to buying stuff. I didn't overdo it. I've always been a bit careful with my finances, so I definitely wouldn't buy stuff all the time, but I was in for little shopping sprees to get nice clothes, maybe here and there a nice piece of fashionable jewelry. And I did accumulate quite a few things until I started studying, and I started wondering when I was beginning of my 20s what my mission was or what my purpose was. And one of the causes that was really dear to my heart and still is the environment. And I have to say I'm really not an extremist. I'm also trying to not worry too much all the time or feel overwhelmed with the issue. But so what happened is that I still wanted to buy stuff that's eco-friendly and produced in a fair way. So I remember that the first one pair of jeans I wanted to buy, I needed some jeans at some point, and I realized that they weren't produced in an eco-friendly way at all. They were quite bad for the environment. So I spent a ton of time researching a company that produced jeans that were good looking and eco-friendly. And after spending days, probably, because back then it was probably about 10 years ago, and it wasn't so easy to find. I went to a store, I found a store where I was living, and I went straight there and I picked this pair of jeans that I had seen online, nothing more, nothing less, and went away with it. So that's, I think, the first path, this first little step that was bringing me to becoming more of a minimalist without even noticing. But then what happened is during studies, I got the incredible opportunity to travel quite a lot. Every possibility I had to go study abroad or take an internship somewhere else, I took it. So basically back then I was living in Paris. This was my basis, and I would always spend 6 months in Paris in a shared flat. And then I would leave the shared flat entirely, move to another place like Ecuador for 6 months, or even the US, and come back for 6 months to Paris, look for a new shared flat, live there, and pack everything and go away again. So it taught me right away that living with just one suitcase and one backpack, it was enough, that I could live for 6 months at least with this amount of things. And most of the time I realized that I didn't even use the entire big suitcase I brought. I was just using maybe half of it, because some items in the end I ended up not wearing so often. And yeah, so after that I settled for quite a bit, and I remember that I noticed, and my friends were noticing, that I didn't even really decorate my place. Once it was more or less ready to live in, I didn't move anything, I didn't buy anything to make it prettier, because I just had this feeling that I want to be free and I want to be ready to move again whenever I want, just like that. So so what I realized is now I've gone through it because I spent some time living in Berlin, and it was my basis for the last couple of years. And when I was there, I kind of drew all the stuff of mine that was still lying around, because I think that compared to the average, I don't have so much stuff, but I still do. I still had some stuff at my mom's place, still had some stuff at another place that I was living for a bit longer in between, some stuff at my father's place, so a bit all around. And I noticed that once I started becoming more aware of minimalism, I realized that it was disturbing me. It was like itching that I had stuff lying around at other people's places, taking their space, and also stuff that is not being used for years. What's the point? Like, if I buy clothes, or if I own stuff, except for a piece of art, but for the rest, it's actually supposed to be used. It's not supposed to be lying there for years somewhere in a box, right? So I think that's when I realized that mentally there was some kind of noise always in the back of my head, and it was disturbing me. So I decided that I want to become more intentional about minimalism. And so the result is now I moved away from Berlin. We are going to travel a bit, and we try to not have too much stuff, of course, so we can bring it with us. I still think I have too much stuff, to be honest. I have 6 or 7 boxes that are still there in Berlin. And what I do intend to do is downsize it progressively. And then whatever I have left that I feel like I'm not ready to let go yet, I would probably, if I'm still wandering around, I would probably just put it in some self-storage facility, and so that it only bothers me and costs me actually money, and I realize that having stuff that you're not using is costly. So that's the result of all this becoming a minimalist without noticing. But in the end, to me, minimalism, it's more like a phase that we have to go through. Some of us have to go through once we've been through too muchism. And the funny thing is that too muchism can be with things, but it can be also with your job, it can be with your social life, it can be with a lot of things. So what I realize is that stuff is one layer, and when you have this layer that's in a manageable size, you feel much better also about clearing the other layers. And there's definitely a point where I was feeling pretty overwhelmed, and so it was, that's why I want to be more intentional about this minimalism thing. However, I don't see minimalism as being about the number of things I own. I think it's more about filtering out whatever is not important, whatever I don't use, and whatever I don't like. So an interesting thought I still want to give you is that when you're a little tight on cash, which is my situation at the moment, you have more problems letting go of, because you don't know whether you will have the budget to buy something new. So it's a bit like our grandparents' mentality of Second World War, of my God, I'd better keep all this because I might need it one day when we're in a difficult situation. And that's a bit the same. So actually my plan is not to never buy anything or just to own 10 items. That's really not the idea, but it's more progressively filtering out, and at some point really letting go of all the stuff I own that I don't like anymore, all the clothes that have holes in it because I have a ton of them, or that just don't look good anymore, and actually buying really quality stuff that I love and will, in my opinion, make my life better. Subscribe to my channel to receive weekly videos with stories, facts, and advice on transformational habits that will help you create lasting change in your life. And in the end, I know that minimalism will help me a lot to have a clearer and cleaner space, which I know personally always makes me feel mentally better, clearer, and it helps me meditate be more peaceful, more productive. So yeah, I think that's where I'm headed, to always have this feeling of entering my space and not feeling overwhelmed by stuff. But basically, when it comes to minimalism, what I'm really interested in is filtering out the habits and systems that help me stay in that state. And I want to filter out how I can keep staying like that over the long term, but also, what does it mean to be a minimalist? Because it's not only about the stuff, it's also about, how does my day look like? And do I feel overwhelmed by all the to-dos I have to do, and progressively filtering it out? And I think that all the habits and systems that I can take away and observe from minimalism as we normally see it will help me progressively make my life better. I hope you liked this video about how I became a minimalist without noticing. If you have some thoughts, please comment or like the video if you liked it, and I hope to see you in the next one.